Good morning, Julia. I hope you can hear me okay and see me. Good morning, everyone else, whoever is on here. It's a little before 9:30, so we're going to wait a bit. Good morning, JT. Welcome to Church School Online. Good morning. That looks like Matt. Hey, good morning, Eric. Happy New Year to you. When I look sideways like that, it's because my cat is speaking to me. So while we're waiting for everyone to gather and join us, I have a question, which is it's the new year. Happy New Year. And I'm wondering if any one of you did anything interesting to celebrate the new year, to just say hello to the new time. Maybe you just wished everybody Happy New Year. Maybe you ate cookies. You can type it in the chat if you want to share what you did to welcome the new year in. Oh, yeah. JT points out that it's the 10th day of Christmas. I always liked that idea of the 12 days of Christmas. Oh, Benji and Caleb decorated gingerbread houses and made cookies. That's fun. It's I was talking to some kids who were in church school a while back, and they ate chocolate cake, and they did not cut the cake. They actually stayed up till New Year's Eve, till midnight, and they waited until midnight before they cut the chocolate cake and had a piece. Good morning, Dwelmers. We were just talking about whether people did fun things to welcome the new year, 2021. You can type in the chat if you did anything special for New Year's while we wait for everyone to gather. So I did something fun. I had a Zoom with some kids who used to go to church school, except they moved to France. So they don't go to our church school anymore because they live across the ocean, and it's even hard to them to get to our online church school because the time is different. Matt shares that he did stay up till midnight, but he almost didn't. I stayed up till midnight in France, where the kids were, and they were the ones who were going to cut into their chocolate cake at precisely midnight. Oh, JT stayed up late too. I stayed up late unintentionally. I didn't want to be up till midnight, but I had trouble getting to sleep. Yes, when we thought about when we discussed staying up till midnight in France, that that was very appealing to me. Some other friends from St. James were on the Zoom, uh, and we all thought that midnight in a different country was a good way to celebrate. I thought it was fun years and celebrate with them. The Dwilmers had fun snacks and roasted marshmallows to celebrate, but not at midnight. That sounds good. Oh, JT is asking about our friends in France. So I don't know if you met them, JT, because their kids were older, or her kids. So it was my friend Claire and her two daughters who appeared in our pageant as a polar bear and fox. And they are living in Paris now. So I was pleased to talk to them and see them and hear about what they were up to. And it's also fun because today we're going to be talking about, in the story, we're going to be talking about people moving to other countries. So I'm going to wait a couple more minutes. So yeah, the girls are, they used to go to middle church school. And if Isaac was here, or Kate, they would know them. And Kate speaks French, so I think she spoke to them in French. Their English was not so good when they were here, but they've been taking English lessons, and their English has gotten much better when I talk to them at midnight in France. Well, it's about time to ring the bell. But also, if anyone wants to add, if they've ever been to France or some other country ever, or some other state like Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, or if you want to share about going just to a different town or city, maybe you've been, or maybe you live in Cambridge, but you've been to Springfield or, somewhere else. You can just type it in the chat if you've been somewhere else. And now it's time to ring the bell. So I'm going to do that. Hello, bell. There it goes. My thumb's out sideways. Can you hear the bell? I'm going to raise it up when the sound ends. I can still hear it. Oh my goodness. Julia says she's been to Spain, Morocco, and Thailand. I'm going to follow up and ask her about these places. Oh, the Dwilmers have been in North Adams, and they're there right now. That's amazing. The Dwilmers are in Massachusetts still, our state, but they're in a different town from where they usually live. So sometimes people travel and go to other places. Now it's time for our story. And this story is about how Jesus and his parents went to another country. They actually became refugees in the country of Egypt. Oh, the Benji and Caleb's family have been to Indiana, California, and Arizona. Some of those are particularly beautiful places. Yes, the Dwilmers say that they didn't want to cross state lines in a pandemic. So when they went somewhere else, They went within their state. But probably, it's not probably, but possibly they've been to other states before the pandemic. Okay, we're back to the story of Jesus and his family, and they had to go to another country because they had some trouble back home. Animals, manger animals around him, and there were some angels. Oh, and some shepherds came to visit him, and then some magi came and brought him gifts. Well, the magi, they had all traveled from foreign countries, from far away. They stopped by on their way to the manger to visit the ruler of the country that Bethlehem was in. That was Israel, and the ruler at the time was a guy called Herod. And the Magi stopped by to visit Herod. And Herod told them to come back again and tell him all about this baby, because he had heard rumors, and the Magi themselves spoke of the birth of the baby as the coming of a new king. But when the Magi were traveling, an angel came to them in a dream and warned them not to go back to Herod, to see Herod again, because Herod was up to no good. Herod had some bad impulses in his heart, and these produced bad intentions in his head. It was very sad and bad. Herod was out to get Jesus, even though Jesus was only a tiny baby at the time. I'll show you a picture of a tiny baby. Here's a tiny baby. This is what Jesus was like, and Herod still was out to get him. Oh my goodness. After the Magi had visited the baby and given him presents, they avoided Herod because they listened to the angel, and instead they went home to their own countries straight away. And then an angel visited Joseph in a dream and told him that he and his family should leave Bethlehem also. The angel said that Herod was looking for the baby and wanted to kill him. A country called Egypt. And here is a picture of Jesus's family traveling to Egypt. You can see some pyramids in the background. Let's see if I can point them out. Those are those tall things, and there's one over here in the distance. There's pyramids in Egypt, and Egypt is famous for pyramids. And it's also famous for being very dry, and parts of it are very desert-like that are not near the rivers. And you can see how dry it is here, where Joseph and Mary are going. Mary is riding on the donkey, and you can see she's carrying baby Jesus. I don't know if you can see that. Woo! There's the baby. So Jesus's family became refugees in Egypt. They were seeking refuge or safety from Herod and his bad deeds. Hey, Johnny, welcome. Refugees are people who've been forced to leave their country and go to another country and who can't return safely to where they came from. Jesus's family traveled by donkey and by foot, as you saw in the picture. But some refugees travel differently. It depends on where they're going. Here are some refugees who went from Germany to Jamaica to escape a bad ruler called Hitler. These refugees are a dad and 3 kids. They are wearing stars above their hearts. There's a story to explain why, but we don't have time for that story today. Here's some people who also had stars above their hearts, and they escaped from the bad ruler called Hitler. They escaped from Germany to Portugal, but they didn't travel by donkey or by foot. They went on this boat. You can see it says Portugal on it, or parts of the word Portugal. They're like that because they're from long ago. But I've got, my next picture has color in it, because it's from nowadays. In fact, it's from May of 2020. So just a few months ago. These people are refugees who are also going by boat. They went from Libya to Italy on a boat in the month of May of 2020 to escape from war. Now I'll show you a picture with less color because it's also old. This is a picture of some refugees who went from Ireland to America because there was hunger and starvation that they were escaping from. And I wish you could see more clearly. This lady has a baby, and this guy is carrying so much stuff. Some of it he's got to carry with his mouth because he doesn't have enough hands. That happened. They traveled by boat from Ireland to America over 100 years ago. But even though it's 100 years ago, we can remember them. And to help us remember them, there are statues and monuments in various places. This statue is from Cambridge Common in the town of Cambridge, where our church is. And you can go visit it sometime and see, actually it's two statues. There's a mom reaching out and a dad holding a baby reaching out. Sometimes babies are refugees, just like baby Jesus. If you go visit the statue, you can go back behind it and play in Cambridge Common Playground, which is really nice. So when Jesus's family went to Egypt, churches grew up in the spots where his family stopped in. They were in Egypt for about 3 years, so they went to a bunch of places while they were there. And the churches were built to help us remember them. Julia tells us that Jesse's uncle was a refugee from Poland over 100 years ago now. No, less than 100 years ago. But yeah, many of us have relatives who were refugees, and I certainly do. Okay, here's a picture of a church in Egypt. I wish I could make it bigger. No. This is a Coptic church in Egypt, and it helps us remember some of the places, or this particular place, where Jesus and his family stopped. Oh, and there's palm trees. I don't know if you can see the palm trees. There are palm trees in Egypt. And here is a picture of some American refugees who went from one state to another. They went from Oklahoma, where it was really, really dry and crops were not growing and everybody was starving. They were fleeing or escaping from starvation and seeking refuge in a place that food could grow, called California. Oh, I don't know if you could tell that there were kids on top of the car. I think grown-ups must have been down here. So kids are often refugees, and grown-ups are refugees too. Here is a picture of some refugees. It is a mom and 3 kids, except I have to scroll up so you can see the baby. See the little baby refugee? There's his, whoa! Man, I think I need to get some better way of showing pictures because it's kind of hard to hold these 2 screens. Anyway, here is the little baby refugee. And here is a picture of another mom refugee with 3 kids, one of whom's a baby. But this picture is in color, whereas the other picture is not. There's no colors here because it was a picture from almost 100 years ago, whereas this picture is from right now. And these refugees went from Syria to Jordan to escape from war. There are no palm trees in this picture, but palm trees do grow in Jordan. I'm getting better at this, I think, moving the screens. Here is a picture of some refugees who went from Palestine to Jordan to escape all kinds of trouble. You can see that there are palm trees in Jordan. Here they are. And there's a whole bunch of kids here. It's a whole refugee. It's actually a three-wheeled vehicle. Jesus' family stayed in Egypt until Jesus was a toddler. And then the angel came back to Joseph in a dream and told him that the bad ruler Herod was dead and it was safe to return to Israel. So Joseph and Mary and little Jesus, here they are again. It's a different picture by a different artist. That's why it looks different. Mary is still on the donkey, and she's holding a slightly older Jesus, a toddler Jesus. He's still kind of a baby, a little guy. And there's Joseph, and here is some bones of what looked like a dead camel who died in the desert. And here's some live camels who are walking around, and there's riders on them. Jesus's family looks quite tired here. I think they were tired going to Egypt, and they were probably tired coming back from Egypt. You know what? It's kind of tiring to be a refugee. I mean, if you traveled, you know that it's kind of tiring to travel. Well, being a refugee is even more tiring than that. Also, Jesus's parents were worried because Herod's son was ruling in the parts of Israel where Joseph came from. And what if the son got bad intentions just like his father had? What if he was a bad ruler like his father? Uh-oh. So instead of returning to where Joseph had grown up, Jesus's family went to the part of Israel where Mary was from. Herod's son didn't rule over that part of Israel, so they thought that would be a safer place to be, even though it had some other different troubles. It was quite small. Mary's hometown was a place called Nazareth, so they went and lived there, and that's where Jesus grew up. So Jesus was born in Bethlehem, but grew up in Nazareth. How about you? Are you growing up in the same place that you were born in? Or if you're already grown up, did you do that growing up in the place you were born? Or did your family move when you were a kid? My family moved, and I moved. But maybe you stayed in the same town that you were born in. You can write about it in the chat if you've moved or if your family moved. I'm also wondering what you think was the most interesting part of the story about Jesus and his family being refugees and about refugees in general. I thought the most interesting part for me was about how being a refugee was not something unusual, but it was something that actually happened to most people, or a lot of people, over history and over, in the world. People are often refugees. And you can be a refugee for all kinds of different reasons. If you would like to share what you thought was the most interesting part of the story, just type it in the chat. Or you can share what you thought was not such a good thing. Oh, Jeremy and Anne, as you can see in the chat, they were born in one place and then grew up in another place. Oh, no. They were born in two different states, and then they moved somewhere else later on. Oh, Michelle uh, grew up or is living in the same place as she was born in, but probably or possibly in a different town. Julia made a joke, I think, that she did not move around. You can ask her sometime whether she moved around at all while she was growing up. Oh, Marion shares that her family moved, but that she moved still a little further when she was older. Oh, Patrick thought that one of the interesting things about the story was Jesus's family moving to and from Egypt. Yeah, it's funny, but many people don't sort of talk about how Jesus lived in another country. Oh, Donal likes when the angel appeared in a dream. Yeah, I really like that too. And the angel appeared, I don't know if it was the same angel, but the angel appeared to the Magi and the angel appeared to Joseph at least twice. Oh, Julia's remembering the refugees from Hurricane Katrina. Yeah, it's often something like flooding, earthquakes, volcanoes, those natural disasters can cause people to become refugees. Or even if there's like a problem with your house, you can have to live somewhere else until the problem in your house is fixed. Oh, Michelle was born in California, and then she grew up in a slightly different town of California than she was born in, and then she came to Massachusetts. Yeah, Julia's sharing that she was born in Alaska. I think that's a kind of fun place to be born in. Oh, Michelle is saying that the first comment was Johnny's. Yeah, because in the chat, I can't always tell if several people are on the same account. It's hard to tell which one is sharing what. Oh, Eric was born in Barbados across the ocean and then moved to Massachusetts. Oh, Jeremy's sharing, or Patrick is currently fascinated by mudslides and landslides. Yes, and there is a big, I don't know if you're interested in snow, but there is a big avalanche in Norway. But mudslides are a real problem in certain parts. Yeah, parents change jobs, and that causes families to move. I have one last question, although you can keep sharing about travels and refugees if you've got family members who are refugees, and just travel stories. You can keep sharing them in the chat. But my last question is this. I showed more pictures than usual in this story, and I could use some advice. Do you think there were too many pictures, or was it okay? You can tell me about whether you thought it was too many, and then I'll know for next time. Also, if you want to see more pictures of Jesus's family in Egypt, you can ask your parents to look for the flight into Egypt online, and they can show you some pictures. There weren't any photographers then to take photographs of it, but many artists painted and drew pictures showing it. Oh, Johnny liked the pictures. It sounds like Johnny didn't think there were too many. Oh, Eric says it was the perfect number. Thank you. I was afraid I'd be overwhelming, and then I had to juggle my other screen. Oh, Jeremy likes the holding up the pictures. That it's like a storybook. Oh, I'm so glad, because I was thinking, uh-oh. Oh, Donal says, what about escaping from a volcano? Yes. I don't know if you know the story of Pompeii. I forget if I think it was Pliny the Younger who escaped from Pompeii. Maybe, no, it was Pliny the Older. He was a historian. Uh, Pompeii is a city in Italy near a volcano called Vesuvius, and it blew up. I mean, it exploded, and the way volcanoes do, erupted is the word I'm looking for, and lava came out and hot ash, and people had to run away from Pompeii. If you ever get a chance to go to Pompeii or the nearby city, oh, I have trouble pronouncing it, Herculaneum, something like that. If you get a chance to go there, you should go because it's really interesting. The volcanic ash that fell down on those cities preserved a lot of what was in the cities. Oh, and Anne is sharing that they've visited, her family has visited her sister who lives near Mount St. Helens. Yes, I've been there too. It's fascinating to visit there. And people had to be evacuated when Mount St. Helens was going to erupt. Mount St. Helens is another volcano, except in Washington, D.C. Is it not Washington, D.C., sorry, Washington State. Oh, yeah, there's many, Marion's pointing out that there are many different kinds of refugees go from one place to another for all kinds of different reasons. Volcanoes, floods like Katrina, or hurricanes like Katrina, war like those refugees that we saw pictures of escaping from Syria and other countries like Libya. And refugees have to leave in case there's a bad ruler like Herod. Sometimes a bad ruler will be mean to people and they have to escape. There's all kinds of reasons that a person can be a refugee, and they can travel by foot or by boat or all kinds of different ways. Or cars, like the folks escaping from hunger from Oklahoma. And refugees can be just like anyone. They can be elderly people, they can be babies like Jesus, they can be kids. And the refugees can come from any country and go to some other country. And refugees have been, there have been refugees, I think, for the whole history of people on the planet. Julie is asking about Oregon. Is Mount St. Yes, Mount St. Helens is in Oregon. I feel really bad because I actually was a geology major, and in geology field camp, I went to visit Mount St. Helens and then returned to visit. But it's hard to remember all those things when I'm also remembering all the refugee stories. Oh, Eric, that's really, Julie, I can't even remember whether it's Oregon or Washington. I'll have to look it up, and I'm embarrassed because I studied this in college. Oh. But Eric, I love your point that we are all in exile and that home is where, well, home is where we're all going. Home is with God. That's our home. So the closer we are to God, the more at home we are. Well, that seems like a really good point to end on. So I'm going to say goodbye, everybody. Oh, thanks, Anne. I was going to say, as soon as I get off, I'm going to look up where Mount St. Helens is. But of course, Anne knows because her sister lives there, and it's in Washington, D.C. Yeah, I've been there, and it's an amazing place visually. And it was interesting for me to study what geologists predicted about when plants and flowers would come back after the eruption, because the eruption just seemed to kill all the plants. Everything was covered in lava and ash. There were no plants to be seen. And by the time I visited, there were some plants growing some grasses and flowers. And the recovery of the plants was much quicker than any of the scientists expected. The volcanic ash was full of nutrients, and that helped the plants grow. Oh, now people are. I've confused everybody about Mount St. Helens. I'm so sorry. I'm going to go with Anne because her sister lives there. So, okay. Time to say goodbye. It's Michelle or Johnny are laughing. So thank you everybody for coming to listen to the story, and thank you for all your advice and help. I really appreciate that, and I will see you soon. Okay, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Okay, bye-bye.